I have that tab open.
No problem. Yeah.
I don't manage live chat when I can't manage it myself. Sorry, I won't do it. I also don't
last week.
I also don't read things on the air ever.
Yeah, no, not directly. I've been on so many podcasts, and as a producer, they're like, "Hey, Jason, look that up," and I just don't, because I realize the conversation moves so fast and forward that I don't.
Oh yeah,
by the time you're able to see it, they've moved on to a whole new topic.
That's why I tell people don't Google it, don't look it up, just move on.
Don't look it up. Yeah,
make a joke about how you're not going to look it up. That's.
That's the amazing thing is,
unless you've got like 6 people or like a giant panel where somebody's job, like I was on a bunch of podcasts way back, and there was one guy who was real quiet, and he was all he'd ever talk about is like RPGs. Like he'd go on for like 11 minutes by himself. It was hilarious. But then like the rest of the show, he'd never say a word. But if he needed something looked up, he could look it up quick enough because he's not talking. He's just It's like, I didn't play Mario. I played Dragon Quest 67 on the original Magnavox Odyssey.
I'm sorry, what?
These aren't real things.
Everybody's a purist about something, right? That's the amazing thing, is that we all know.
No, he's a great guy, but it's really funny how he would be like, he just never, he could look anything up for you needed, and he'd get it quick enough, but he also wouldn't ever have to interrupt anybody ever for anything.
Wow. That's so cool. Okay. So that recording, there it is. That thing that says it's you're being recorded now. It's just popped up on my screen, but there was like no OK button, no continue button, no.
No, you don't get a choice.
No, I mean not even like to dismiss it so I can see the screen. It's basically sitting there like you're being recorded. And the whole time we're just gonna let you know you're being recorded.
I wish I could monitor my Zoom volume separately. Is there?
If you go to audio settings, you can
turn everything down. I don't care. It's
maybe.
I don't care.
Because since I have the Scarlet, it won't let me play with any other option than the Scarlet.
That's because you're running it on that side, and you're also probably hearing it through the Scarlet, versus I'm hearing it through my mic's interface. To me directly, so I could turn down the mic volume, but that would turn me down. I don't want to turn me down. Well, It wouldn't turn me down on your side, it would turn me down on my monitoring, but I want to turn down the Zoom like you guys so I can hear just everything a little bit more even on my end. But
I gotcha.
And for some reason my out volume doesn't affect Zoom, it affects my computer sounds but not the Zoom sounds, and I'm like, oh, that's fantastic.
Like, especially with people that are on PCs, the first thing I tell them is turn down your master volume to like 80%, like input and output.
Yeah.
Because if your output is at 100%, it doesn't matter. You're going to sound all like grungy.
Yeah. No, you can never actually turn up the gain all the way, or you'll have a problem.
Yep.
I need a new mixer. I'm going to buy a new mixer. Not this month. Maybe next month.
Or do you want to introduce the show and then we can just keep talking?
Oh, are we, I didn't know if we actually had gone live or not.
I believe so.
Oh,
Jay, did you go live on TikTok before I saw that?
Yeah, I did. It was okay. I got to figure out, because I want to do something with like a pre-show type of thing.
In the future, I could jump on and join you. I could join you live, and we could do something.
Yeah,
pre-show.
I realized today, like talking for an hour before talking for an hour is not probably the best idea solo.
We could do like a snack thing for the Snack Network. That's a pre-show to this.
Right. I believe in
we could do a little bit of like, it's, we're doing this, and then we'll do this. Yeah, it's always good to transition from one thing to another to make people stay.
Yeah.
If there's no breaks.
What I wish we could do, and again, this is a TikTok thing, like try to get the show on TikTok.
Don't worry, it's on my list, Jay. It's legitimately on my list. I got to talk to a couple people. I think I might have a guy who has some of the equipment, and so I could bring my phone basically over here, so you could see me talking to you guys on my computer, and then you could hear the whole show, and that would be good enough as a live.
I can actually
TikTok.
do that now, because I'm using my PC. I can actually hook my PC. Well, not hook my PC, but put my phone back on to go back live again. But
but you need to run all the audio from the machine to. I know for people who are watching the YouTube archive right now, or any of this is really boring, but we need a way to run out the audio of, like, if I put my phone here, you could hear me. That's great. But we need a way to run out everybody, so that even though you're just kind of really seeing me sitting at my computer, you can hear
everybody else,
all four of us, or three of us in this case right now.
Right. How would that work?
Yeah, that's exactly the secret. That's exactly the question we need to ask, is how do we make that work correctly?
Right.
All right, give me.
But it's exciting, and we're in the beginning. You know,
so I'm introducing this show this time.
Sure. Yeah, your turn.
Okay, I guess so. I mean, I don't see why you don't get a turn, but that's okay.
No, he was
I'm right after you.
It's you, then him.
Oh no,
then
Jay, and then me, and then Ezrick. Yeah,
sure it is. Welcome to Inspirations Beyond Disabilities. I'm your host today, Dave Moore. This show is for everything in your world of disability discussion. Maybe a safe place for us to have our opinions and our thoughts and our feelings. Most of us are part of the blind talk community, but this show is not exclusive to those in the visually impaired spectrum. But joining me, of course, to discuss wonderful things is Jay, the baritone blurred. How's it going, Jay?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Oh, we're hanging out, chilling. Also joining us is the guy, the real man himself, from the most professional standing podcast network, I would call it, Public Access America. Jason, what's going on?
Everything's good. I love it. I love being here with you all.
I love how official Public Access America sounds. It's one of my favorite things. Like, wow, sounds real. Sounds legit.
Right. Like Voice of America, right? And it was going to be called originally Public Access Stuff.
Yeah, no, you definitely picked the right name.
Yeah. Hey, Public Access what?
Stuff. Public access stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, I know I want a podcast, but what do I want to do? And so I came up with 34 concepts of things where I didn't have to talk for an hour, like going to church and recording masses and then making that a podcast. You know,
we want to talk about dumb podcast ideas we had.
Right. I wanted to go to the zoo and record the wildlife.
I did 10 episodes of a show for the college radio station. It was called Dead Air. And the premise
whole show is dead air.
The premise was, welcome to Dead Air. In each episode, we explore the unpredictability of a new location, from busy coffee shops to empty hallways. We hope you enjoy the program. We recommend that you listen with headphones. And it was me taking like a surround recorder, and I would just go sit somewhere for 30 minutes. Just record that sound, and that show ran at like 3 a.m.
I love that.
Wow. Can you imagine if somebody said something crazy as they walked past the recorder?
Oh, that was the best part about it. I go sit in a hallway, and people would be like, "Can you believe that Tracy screwed that guy?"
Right.
Yeah, no,
How many confessions happened
and it happened in every episode, and it was like one thing in the whole 30 minutes, and sometimes it was like right at the beginning, sometimes it was like 28 minutes in, but there was always like a moment of gold, and I'm like, God, this is a stupid show, but I should bring it back.
It's so funny. So I lived in an apartment, and it was all wood floors, first and second floor. And neighbors were super loud, and I wanted to get out of the lease. So I took my Yeti microphone on a stand, put it on a table right above the ceiling, and recorded it and put it on Facebook Live, so that my landlord would be like, wow, that's loud. But an hour and 10 minutes in, I realized my neighbors were having sex right above my microphone. So in the episode Sounds from Above, the last 10 minutes just has 2.5 minutes of sex, and then the guy gets up and starts yelling at the dog and stomps out. It's just fucking hilarious.
2.5 minutes.
Sounds from above.
Yeah,
Two and
I
a
made
half
the podcast because I was like, I figured if you have an annoying neighbor, go to Sounds for Above on SoundCloud, Sounds from Above, and just play this and go out because it's an hour of just random ass neighbor noise, you know?
Man, where was that when I lived in Texas?
There's an apartment I lived in. This is a really crappy apartment. And it was like the third floor apartment. There was no oven. It's a great shitty apartment. You know, it's one of those. And down below there was this mom who had her kid who was like a single mom, and every day, no matter what hour of the day, you hear, Kyle, pick up your laundry.
How much laundry did? Wow. You know what?
All the time. All hours of the day. It could be like 3 a.m. You'd hear, Kyle, why are you sleeping?
But man, you want to piss your neighbor off and get them to shut up forever? Record them and then play it and let them know you recorded them. Suddenly they are just freaked out. And I recorded my neighbor. He came and yelled at me. He's like, I'm not legal. You can't record me. And I was like, then stop making so much noise.
Shut up. There were lesbians above me in my second apartment building. That was fun. I always heard that. That was great. Yeah.
Jason, have you ever thought about trademarking Public Access International?
I have not. But
for
what are we CNN now? We've gone global.
Like,
I mean, you never know.
The show's already global.
I'm working with a podcast app that's looking to open in Africa. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, we are heard in over 140 countries just around the world. I love that, you know.
Wait, this show was heard in 140 countries?
By 6 people?
Wow. Oh, wow.
We get a lot of listens. I mean, not as much as like one of Dave's podcasts, but it's still a new podcast, you know.
I know I've seen the replays. Like I go back and for some reason, like I'm always self-conscious about my audio. So I always go back and watch like the replay and see like on not a day-to-day, but like the first day it's posted, and then like several days later I'll go back and look at it again. And I always notice like our numbers are getting better.
Yeah.
Our numbers are getting better.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The episode we had with Jay and the girls was like one of our highest on YouTube. Really? You know what I mean? And to get those numbers on YouTube and a podcast at the same time is kind of cool. That's proof of concept for me that people would want to listen to like clips on like a clip of what we're talking about and then go listen to the longer conversation and go, that's not enough. And then go to the extended unedited conversation and be like, now I'm a fan. You know what I mean?
I'm always surprised when people say my episodes are the highest rate. I'm like, who wants to listen to me? I'm random. I am super random.
You're TikTok dad. You're TikTok dad. You're
TikTok dad.
You're what every woman on TikTok wants a man to be.
Yeah, right.
And they keep finding these guys that treat them like shit. And then they see Jay, who's a loving father and husband, and he works his ass off, and he's just always nice and calm. You're never like exploding. You're never violent. You know, really? You're always sarcastic, but you're vulnerable. And so women like Jay.
Yeah,
all the women say Jay.
Yeah, the ladies like Jay.
Yeah, I don't believe that for half a second. Yeah.
Yep. They all want their men to be more like Jay.
I doubt that.
I got 100%. They're Jay is the epitome of the perfect man.
My wife's ready to trade me now. No, I doubt that.
Well, that's just it. They don't get to see the unedited cut version of Jay's life in 24-hour time, you know. If they did, they'd be like, oh, fuck that guy. All guys
doing homework for yourself. So guys, last week we talked about sensory overload. It was kind of a preliminary a thing that we started talking about, and like how as people with on the visually impaired spectrum, surprisingly, despite maybe not being a thing people were talking about, is our the way that like loud and dark environments can be a little bit overwhelming for us. And I will admit that Ezrick put a wonderful article in our Instagram chat. And that sounds more in character. Really? And I'll admit 100% that I did not read it.
I opened it and saw that there was a list and was like, okay, I can go back to a list in a minute. And never.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So I'm sure I'm extremely qualified to discuss this topic.
Terrible.
But I had
I love putting a name to something I've been feeling. So I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yeah, that's what it was for me last week. Like finally realizing like audio fatigue is I think what we called it last week until we realized like it's sensory overload. And just knowing, because the only thing I usually ever associate sensory overload with is autism. Like I have never associated it with anything else. But surprise, surprise, we've got that too.
And I think autism is maybe more triggered in different ways, right? Like ours comes with like a feeling of like uncomfortableness or like losing something that we're relying on versus I think like just the overwhelming amounts. And look, I don't have autism. I'm not an expert. I didn't read any books, but like I think they're more triggered by the surroundings versus more triggered by the lack of the ability to use the surroundings.
There's actually other things that article brought up that I didn't realize maybe triggers for us when it comes to vision loss and sensory overload. One of the things the article mentioned is that, so if you're a person with still some functioning sight left and you're straining to read and you're straining to like recognize faces and you're straining to recognize signs and things like that, that can actually be considered a stressor on not only your eyes, but like your brain as well. And that can actually contribute towards sensory overload. So I remember last week when we were talking about being in a dark restaurant, trying to read a menu, listening to the noise going on around you. I know the noise around us is a major contributor to that thing, but like think about the fact that also while you're straining to read, your brain is also taking a beating, so to speak, trying to function and focus on what you're reading and comprehend what you're reading. So that's actually adding to your overload.
It's fascinating. It's almost like this happens to me on a daily basis.
Right.
I have enough functioning sight, right? I can rely on my one good eye to do most things. And because walking sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I ride my bike.
I love walking.
Now my mother would insist that I should probably never ride a bike. But I do it anyway. Because because you know what? I have to get around sometime. And I went this morning. I had an experience. I went to go get breakfast with a couple of my friends who I haven't seen and we haven't all really been together in about 12 years. And this breakfast place is about a 10-minute bike ride from my house. And I love this place. This is a little diner. I haven't been there since pre-COVID. But while riding my bike, now I choose to ride my bike on the sidewalk because that seems safer. I also can stop regularly and, get out of the way of people and whatever. And I was flying down one of the main roads on the sidewalk. It's also a main road and there's tons of cars and it's not really safe to be on the road anyway, right? And so this lady's standing in the middle of the sidewalk at like this tiny little bridge. She's like, get on this road, and I'm like, lady, calm the hell down. So I stop. I came to a complete stop. I'm still 6 feet away from her because it's still in this world where I'm going to stay. So she's like, get in the road. There's not a room for you. I'm like, look at the road. And we're like on a bridge, right? There's like 2 lanes. I'm like, lady, if I get in the road, I'm just going to die. How about you just like stand half an inch over to the side? I'll go around you. No, not a big deal. So I go out into the road for half a second, go around her, and she goes, I can't believe. I'm like,
some people you'll never make happy.
You're lucky I'm having an okay day, lady, because we're about this close to me just like going up like, okay, well, I'm blind. You're lucky I didn't run into you, you stupid bitch. And so
that's the issue starts with why she had an attitude that was unrelated to you and why she felt she needed to throw it all over you at a worse time in your life and why you should just accept that as normal, But
that's how people act. Like it's never really consideration of anybody else when it comes to that, especially when it comes to like, even if you have a cane, even if you have like some sort of identifier with you, people will still do that because they feel like you're the easy target to take out their bad day, their frustrations on.
I mean, lady, it was like 7:45 in the morning, realistically, like,
because you need them.
You need to relax. Your day is clearly more rough than mine, I guess.
Right.
But so I didn't say anything. I literally said nothing. I just stared at her blankly because That's
The
a better
smartest thing
method.
to do.
Yeah.
Don't feed into her anger. Don't fan the flames. Leave her in it to sit by herself.
Yeah.
Just let her know that she didn't affect your day, and she has
Right.
to do it to somebody else. You are unaware of her. That's what I do.
But I was more aware, and I hadn't rode my bike in a long time either. My tires were flat and whatever. And I don't ride it that often. Buses are a little easier and stuff. I was more aware of how hyper focused I am on everything when riding my bike, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I'm moving it, probably less than 10 miles per hour realistically, right? But
fast, right?
but considering I'm used to walking,
it's faster than you're used to going.
It's way fast. And you don't have control over cars that you're in. Like, you're not used to controlling anything going 60. So I'm going way faster than normal. I was very aware of like, I literally have no other brain power for anything other than focusing on what I can see in front of me. That's it. That is my entire brain process.
Right.
Doing this. And so, like, I don't know, that was an interesting realization I had doing that today, more so than ever.
So
I find it interesting. What I do is I edit the information that comes in, because I can't write things down and chronicleize it, so I memorize it. So if people are telling me ancillary information that I don't need about people that are irrelevant to my life, I tell them I don't care. And
I do that too.
And they get upset, and I'm pretty blunt and direct, and there's a sarcasm to my voice, but I don't mean it that way. What I mean is I can't take that information.
I can't process that at that moment.
I don't read Lord of the Rings because I don't want fallacy in my information, but that's me, and that's how I absorb things. And so I can watch Lord of the Rings, but I can't read it because it would put it in my head in an informational way. You know what I mean?
So for you, when you read it, it's more, if you read it, it has to basically be fact. It can't be like
it falls into
fiction.
a different part in my brain as
Got it.
read material, not entertainment material.
Got it.
For some reason,
So did somebody join our call?
No, see, that was actually me. I was trying to click on, I went into our group thread text message, and I was looking for the YouTube link to see if we had anybody live, see if I could try to like moderate the chat. But I accidentally clicked on the Zoom link again for today. So there was probably 2 instances of me up on the screen at one time. One just the top of my head, and one of my face trying to figure out what the heck is going on my phone. So yeah, that was me.
You're good.
Yeah.
And I thought what you were doing was, because you could enter the conversation and then mute your phone mic and then put it up for a different angle. Or what I've done is, like, I've gone on my iPad in the other room and set up another one so that I could hear from my iPad, and then I close and mute this screen so I can go in another room, but I'm in there in two. So I thought you were just messing around with that.
Oh, I have no idea how to do any of that. I'd like to learn, because there's a few things I'd love to try to figure out to do for Zoom. But
yeah, Jasmine is here. Donella is here. We got Jasmine's all over the place. I love it. I love it. Jay, what's the name of? Wait a minute. The article. Oh, what's the article?
The article is called Sensory Overload and Vision Loss. If you want me to send the link, like if you want to put it in the
definitely.
Let me see if I can just text it to you. Hold on.
The show notes.
Yeah, it's gonna say the show notes for afterward. Or if he wants to put it in the chat now.
If you want to text it to me on your phone, I have my messenger. I can get
yes.
I got you, Jason. I think I love Instagram so much. Never mind, I lied.
It's the one thing I don't have on my desktop, so it's like everything that I send you has to go onto a note, and then
Instagram on desktop is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Mainly
because it doesn't exist. Is that why it's a nightmare?
No. It's there if you go to Instagram .com. But like the big problem is that Instagram.com, from what I find at least, does not have a dark mode. So anything without a dark mode for me is like a no-go. TikTok doesn't have a dark mode either, but that's a bigger pain in the butt.
My iPad has a dark mode, so everything goes into dark mode at some point.
Really? I know Android does that too for every app that has an applicable dark mode. If the app doesn't have an applicable dark mode at all, There is something that is called because I found it the other day through a TikTok video actually, where you can force certain apps, because certain apps do have a dark mode, but they don't have it like accessible for everyone to use at that moment. But you can force that app into dark mode, which is actually fantastic. But the problem is that sometimes the dark mode that they have isn't like fully ready. So like the screen will be black, like the background will be black, and the text will be like either dark gray or black. And it's just like, oh, this is not helpful at all. Like that's not helpful at all.
So I'm looking at this article, right? And they talk about basically the things that can trigger these.
Text message.
And yeah, I sent it to your phone via text message as well. So one of the first things listed here is in the symptom section, which is like sight, and it's related to like bright, overly dark, or like flashing lights. And one of the first things that's come to mind in my case is you ever go to like a haunted house? You ever get dragged to like a haunted house where you're like walking through a thing and it's like, hey, we're gonna spin colors around you, and then they're like, they're gonna have and a clown's gonna pop out, and I'm like, you're like, yeah, this is stupid. But then there's always the one stupid one where they put strobe lights in it, where all it is flashing strobe lights, and that's what's supposed to be scary about it. Except like it is actually kind of scary, because like if you start doing strobe lights, like I'm just basically not able to see. Like there's nothing, and I get that's kind of half the point. But in that scenario where basically the world starts to move at a completely different frame rate is kind of scary and terrible. And I'm like, okay, just hold my hand and pull me through here. Thanks a lot. That was stupid. Thanks for wasting my time. And that's how I feel about those. I hate strobe lights. All strobe lights can die.
So have you ever gone to like an arcade? Like I think I mentioned this last week about going to like Dave and Buster's. Have you ever done like a Dave and Buster's or something like that? Where,
I think
there's continuous flashing lights.
So I think one of the reasons like something like Dave and Buster's doesn't bother me, and maybe this is a blind advantage, because of the way my vision impairment works. I can only focus on basically one area at a time. Like my field of vision is extremely lacking. So like I think if I could see, because they restricted within to a 5-degree percent or whatever is what my doctor says it is, which means basically I assume that means that normal people who have normal sight can see 95% of things around them more than I can. And I've just, adapted to moving my eyes around more and looking around more frequently. But I think if I could see all the lights at Dave and Buster's, I'd probably have a problem. But because I think I can only focus on like one machine at a time, I don't really have a problem.
I realized that I train myself. Like people say you can't see far, and I'm like, because I never try, right? Because when I try to see far, I see way too much, and it's like vertigo for me. It just really, somebody took me to the beach, and all I could do was sit there by the stuff and look at the sand, because looking out at the ocean was just so
everything's too far away
to my eyes. It was just weird. And I have the opposite thing. Like I'm losing my central vision, so I'll look and there won't be anything, but when I turn my head a little bit, it'll be there. The flashing light will be there, like a Christmas tree off on the side peripheral vision that just annoys the hell out of me.
That's one of the things they actually say is actually a challenge. Like, so think about areas. So you don't like the beach because everything is like spaced out. It's nothing but open space. It's nothing but open water, things like that. So your eyes are continuously going through a strain at once. Right? Everywhere you look, there's strain. There's a strain even when you look up, like there's a strain. So if you're always irritable at the beach, if you're always annoyed at the beach, if you experience anxiety at the beach, that's all a symptom of your sensory overload. What I find crazy about that is though, two of the symptoms, as they mentioned, anxiety and depression, are very, very common results of sensory overload for people with low vision. So I can't remember what it was. I was actually, I was putting together a speech for an event I was supposed to do a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things I found out is that almost half of the blind community actually experiences depression and anxiety at some point. So I'm wondering if that's due to having sensory overload, but not really understanding or even knowing you have it.
I think it's also not having another outlet. Like you feel limited, but there's no other way you can express yourself, and I think that causes a depression. You know,
what's fascinating about this is people always say, "Dave, why are you such on high alert? Why does it always seem like you're anxious all the time?" And it's like there's always been this like I can't explain why I feel this way. I can't explain to you
Yeah.
why I'm sad frequently. And like maybe this is part of it,
Yeah.
right? And like maybe this realization that like basically all the time we're operating on like I have to listen for everything. I have to look around way more than most people. I have to do these things. And it's just a natural thing we do, but we don't realize like we are actually exhausting ourselves
Yeah.
doing
We
this.
are, yeah.
It's
Every
crazy
minute.
to think that every outing is an exhausting adventure. Like,
Yeah.
especially when you're walking with your and the thing that I find interesting is when you're mobility trained, you're trained to, utilize all your other senses and any functioning vision that you have left. I
Sure.
wonder if they knew that. Is there a way to possibly
No,
retrain
because
us not to be exhausted?
what's fascinating about this is, and this is the first time this is actually coming up, right? It's like on this show for me. Like this isn't something that like has
Right.
ever been, and I had years of vision teachers,
Yeah.
like I had a vision instructor. I saw it, if not every single day for years, but at least once a week all the way through school, so for 12 years I had somebody answering my questions, checking in on me, making sure things,
Wow.
asking me questions. Like that was a regular thing. Her name was Judy Cornelius, wonderful woman. I think she is actually retired now, and I'm happy for her. But like this, you think that if this were something and it was clear that I was having extreme anxiety and depression and it was something they were aware of, you think it would have probably come up. And it never did. This is not a thing that ever was explained or gone through. And like, so basically having this conversation, I'm saying I'm basically self-diagnosing myself
That's what I went through last week. Yeah.
with sensory overload, depression, and anxiety. And that's what it's caused by. But, and if, if we had a different country, I brought this up on this show already when I was with the girls, which is I can't go and I can't go to therapy. There's no insurance to cover that. That's not how it works. So, but this would be a conversation I'd want to have, because this is the question is this what's triggering this? Because if you look at my life, right? Like there's been some traumatic experiences, plenty of broken hearts and, situations I've had to go through that have probably damaged me psychologically. Right. But at the same time, like those things, I feel like I could work them out. Right. But there's still always a bit of me that's always just angry.
Yeah.
And it will never go away. It is part of me.
That's part of the stereotype of the blind person is anxiety, depression, and anger. And I wanted to talk about this a little later, but the perception of the angry, disabled person when it's justified, when you see somebody disabled crying for accessibility, but you're only part of half of the argument. That's what happened today. And I saw somebody yelling on one of my tweets about accessibility, and I was like, hey, why don't you talk to them? And he's like, I did, and I'm frustrated. And I was like, but to me, you're just coming off as the angry disabled guy, perpetuating a stereotype that makes me look bad. So could you calm down and readdress this? And he's like, you're a troll, you're ableist. And I was like,
no, I'm trying to get something done.
Can a disabled person be ableist? Yes. Was I being ableist by listening to him? No, I was never saying that he couldn't do anything he wanted to do. What I was saying was that his approach wasn't ever going to be effective. If you're going to be angry and yell at people, they're not going to listen to you. So you need to readdress that as a disabled person. If it's important, talk to me, because then what I did was I emailed that organization and said, I'd like to talk to you about accessibility. And they said, okay. So now I'm booking that org to discuss his issue. But now I'm a troll, an ableist, and I'm blocked, and I can't get to any of the resources that he gave me that he said they were denying him. So now I'm kind of stuck.
So this is a real show. So let's talk about it. So as a black guy, I'm used to having to learn to quell your anger, because the angry black guy is also a stereotype.
Exactly.
Right? You can't really go somewhere and raise your voice to have your passions heard. First off, I have a very loud voice as it is. Right. So that, with me being a black guy, being a disabled guy, like all of those things just say, oh, he's just angry. So people often lose the message of what you're saying in the context. It's something that you learn when you work for call centers, like I know when I used to be a representative, we used to not listen to people that would yell. People who were frustrated,
Right.
but who could calmly articulate what's going on. You can actually hear what's going on and actually help them. People who just wanted to yell at the top of their voice, they don't want to hear you. So
Right.
it all kind of sums up to you catch more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. I feel that way even when we talk about TikTok. Like I've seen a lot of videos talking about things that need to be changed, things that need to happen. And they're pretty much yelly videos. And I notice people don't like being, well, obviously people don't like being yelled at. But if you learn how to articulate, hey, this is what we need, this is what's going on, these are the things we're asking for. Don't be vague about it, be specific about it. You may actually have a better chance of getting something done. So the yelling thing, like I get the angry blind guy stereotype. I get even why people why people see us that way.
I've been that guy.
Huh? I mean, at one point I was that guy too. But I realized people get scared. But after a while, it's just like all he's going to do is yell. Right. So have something to say. Like take the moment to reflect on what you want to say, because I get that raw emotion coming out first. Right. But process that thought, process that emotion, say what you want to say, but then also be prepared to, like, I know for me with video games, I want accessibility. I'm not only asking for accessibility, but I'm willing to be a tester. Like I'm willing to put my time on the line too, just to make sure that this works. So that it's not just offer a solution with your yelling. So like if you
can't just yell into space about something. And the thing about reasonable accommodations is I say, I want the world. And they say, we'll give you this. It's not, you're going to get everything you want. It's a slow roll process.
It's a first step.
No, if they don't know they're supposed to do it for you and you're not telling them, but you're just yelling at them, then they don't know to do it.
As I've been more aware of this kind of situation, I've started to learn that keeping my mouth shut is usually better. And that doesn't really benefit me in any way, but I've found that basically saying nothing at all is sometimes a better scenario. Sure, I don't accomplish the problem, like I don't solve the problem in that way, but sometimes when it
anyway, why?
But yeah, right, when it's exactly when it's a problem that cannot be solved, right, there is no point in yelling. It'll make the situation worse, and that's just what it is.
If you've addressed it the way you think you should, and the other person isn't responding the way you think they should, if they're angry about it, then yeah, it's time to shut down the conversation and readdress it at another time when they're not irrational. You know,
I've also found that to be true when it's a situation when it's an unnecessary argument about a lot of topics, and it's just like everybody wants you to weigh in on it, and it's just like, no, there's a bunch of people yelling. So whatever the actual message that needs to be heard, calmer heads are not here yet. So when calmer heads are here and you can actually have this conversation, and this is just the way I phrase it in my head because I'm very blunt, when you can actually have the conversation like an adult, then I'll get on and I'll speak my piece about whatever. But until it's a whole bunch of yelling and yelly stuff, no, I'm not taking part in this. Like this, nothing's going to get accomplished this way.
But can I say one thing? If it's somebody I love and care about that comes at me and yells, I'll sit there and listen and ask them to repeat it until they're calm. I'll take that time with somebody I care about, and be like, all right, I didn't get that. Say it again. Okay, say it again. I understand. I'll do that for somebody I care about, but I don't see why I should have to change a stranger, like improve every stranger that comes past me with a flaw. Sometimes you're right, Dave. I just stay quiet and let them pass by and make them somebody else's problem because I don't have
like the lady who wanted me in the street.
Right. I don't have the patience for her. It's so much easier to move past her and think about the next issue, me riding my bike,
The funny thing in here is the next section is loud, intense music, machinery, like mechanical sounds, which is obviously a problem. Crowds. Because you're gonna bump into people, plus they're loud and obnoxious. And then like screaming voices. Literally, this is the next section in this article. And for good reason. The next section, because I'm sure it'll bring it up, is smells and how smells affect us. the first thing they list as a suggestion is like one of the triggers, it seems like, right? Cigarette smoke, which is being overwhelming. And now here's the problem. I grew up in the 90s, right? And so growing into restaurants, there was always smoking and non-smoking.
Yeah.
But it didn't really matter. If people were still smoking in pretty much every place you went into, especially if you went into like any kind of bar at all. And there's a lot of like outdoor bars with outdoor patios and sections still here. I think smoking is the most disgusting thing in the world. Smoking literally anything, I think smoke is disgusting. But like if I'm sitting at the bar drinking a beer, eating some hot wings, like if somebody's smoking like across from me, I could smell it. I kind of like it. Is that weird?
That is new.
Yeah, I hate. New. I think smoking is gross. Anybody who like sure, do whatever you want to do, smoke whatever you want to smoke. That's not my problem. But I don't personally like it. Like I think it's disgusting and I don't want to do it. But if I am sitting there and can smell it, I kind of like it.
There's
at the bar, and it's got to be cigarettes. It's got to actually be like cigarettes that are like black and mild.
Black and mild.
But think about all of those things, right? So the question for me is, if all of those things are a trigger, not saying that all of those will apply to each and every person.
No, and that's the point of it, is basically these things can affect people.
And how do you address, if you have more of those things on that list, how do you address dealing with
industrial gases, food being cooked? So like literally anything that smells, but it's that overwhelming smell.
Yeah.
Is because if you lose the sense of smell, you lose a lot. Yeah. people don't realize it. Like even my girlfriend's car right now, when she starts it up, I can smell the gas when it starts, and that's getting kind of weird. And I'm like, do you smell that? And she's like, what? I go, every time you start your car, like if I'm outside the car, I get a smell of gas, and I'm sure that's normal, right? But I'm getting an overwhelming, like, I'm like, oh, that's weird. That doesn't seem normal, right? Doesn't seem concerning, I guess. Technically, it's a car starting with gas. Like, you
need, one of your spark plugs is just off a little.
Who knows? But and I'm not actively concerned about it, not yet.
Right.
But I do notice it immediately. And what part of my brain is using? How much of my brain am I using doing that? Right.
Just noticing things.
Yeah, just noticing that. Like that's really what this is.
Where am I based on the smell?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I live right next to a dump, my
friend. Lord, I forgot about that.
Which is maybe why we feel more comfortable in our own homes, because you kind of like start to people will come in your house and be like, wow, it smells like cats, and you're like, I don't smell it. Right. Like you're just used to it. It's just a smell. If you do what I do, it's just clean for a living, right? Like I don't even smell bleach anymore. Like if I smell bleach, I'm like, you are using way too much, because I use way too much. I can't smell bleach at all.
I had a date come over and she was like, that's bleach. And I was like, yeah, like all happy, like I cleaned everything. And she was like, oh, I gotta open a window or something.
Cleaning is always fun, especially when you're learning how to do it, because there's always a proper mix for how you're supposed to do it. Yeah. And I never get that mix right to save my life. Something's either going to smell way too bleachy or way too, like, what is that? Not pine salt, Lysol. Like way too much of that.
Oh, Pine Sol is the greatest cleaner in the world. I love the smell of Pine Sol.
Wow. So you don't like smoking, you just like inhaling. That stuff is like super strong.
Right.
Pine Sol.
What's the active ingredient in Pine Sol?
I have no idea.
Ammonia or bleach? I don't.
It's know. It's not bleach.
Okay.
I mean, it will stain your clothes, but I don't know what actually makes it.
It's my roommate's favorite like cleaner, and I asked him, I was like, why? And he's like, I like the smell, and I was like, yeah, but do you care about how it cleans? If it's just like a wood wax or something that's covering everything.
No, it's like general all-purpose cleaner. It will stain things, so you need to be conscious about what you use it on. Like you probably shouldn't be spraying like hardwood beautiful hardwood finished tables with it or something.
Right. Okay.
Even though it theoretically shouldn't hurt it, but you probably could scrub off some of whatever. This is not a cleaning podcast.
So crowds, why would crowds bother me? Because they're all random noisy and they're closing in on me. I don't like being claustrophobic, you know what I mean? Anything that makes me feel claustrophobic or like it's closing in on me, that's frustrating. You know?
It's not that I'm claustrophobic, you know, like
Feels like it.
You could probably shove me in like a confined blanket space, you know, like a not completely dark kind of space, and I'm okay. Like I don't
like
feel
tube?
Yeah, like a big tube. Like I could walk through a big tube.
Could you be like crawl into it and like lay like under your bed? You know, the size of the room under your bed. Could you squeeze in there and just stay there? That would.
Yeah, I probably could do that.
I've tried to hide for my kids there. But then again, I have like an 18-inch platform. So
right.
But crowds, if you think about it, crowds take away a number of things that we use on a consistent basis to function. So a loud crowd takes away your ability to be able to hear everything going on around you. Like you can't hear, there are certain cues that you usually get in just general chatter or quiet that you can't get in the crowd. Right. Also, you lose the ability, especially if you're touch based. Like think about moving through say like a huge gathering downtown, so like the Olympics is in your city or whatever, and you're pushing through the crowd. I remember I went to the Super Bowl parade for the Eagles a few years ago, and that was a huge crowd, and the ability to navigate with your cane is more difficult because you can't have it fully out in front of you. You have to have it raised above you just a little bit, just not to hit somebody or really to get feedback. On top of that, now you've got different smells going on that are triggering. You're dealing with food vendors. In certain crowds, you're dealing with other smells. Some people don't wash, take a bath for some reason. So now you're dealing with those unpleasant odors. So there's a lot of things that can obstruct your actual functioning in a crowd that can make it hating crowds, right? So there's a lot of things that can kind of prevent, that can kind of be like anxiety inducing for being in a crowd.
Yeah, it's not so much that I hate the events or hate the gatherings or any of those things. Yeah, no, that's true. Sometimes it's stupid, like St. Patrick's Day in downtown Cleveland. But it's, you know, it's not always that that's the problem, right? Like going to the fair, but it's like if you shove me into the big crowded section where everybody's basically crawling all over each other.
Yeah.
I'm going to step on somebody's foot. They're going to yell at me
because
I can't see them. And then they're going to be mad
and they're going to go right.
And they
bump into each other.
They don't know that I can't see them. Right. They don't have any idea. And they don't even know after I ran straight head first into them. They'd be like, "You're an asshole." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm sorry.
Why are you here if you're blind? Why are you
even if they do know you can't see them sometimes, they'll still be a jerk. And then you have to consider the maturity.
There.
You have to consider the maturity of the crowd, because sometimes, depending on the event, you're going to a crowd full of idiots. Like you are absolutely going to a crowd full of idiots who are looking to just be idiots.
And it's true. And we're calling all these people in these dumb crowds of idiots, but realistically, we're in the crowd of idiots, which also makes us part of the crowd of idiots.
No, but what I'm saying, all right. So for example, if you go to a wrestling show, right, there are people who are
to be a genius though.
No, but you don't also go to a wrestling show to have a match in the audience. Like you're going to go watch the matches. You're not going to go conduct one. And I've been to shows where like guys have come in because, you know, you can get, depending on like your financial situation, you can get some pretty nice replica belts. And everybody, you walk in with one and everybody's like, "I challenge you for the title." And then people will literally start wrestling in the middle of the crowd. And I'm just like, bro, you're not a performer. You're not part of the show. Like sit down. And people will really do that, and you will either be trying to get past them, or you will be minding your own business, and they will, they're assuming that
plowing to you like in middle school or in high school when these two dudes ripped their shirts off and then came plowing into me at the table.
Yeah. You get stuff like that at those kind of shows.
Come on,
you also get guys.
Watched The Matrix. You didn't try and jump in the air and freeze
at home. Yes, at home. I was not in the middle of like a parking lot or the middle of like, high school graduation going, guys, you don't believe what I'm about to do. I'm going to jump in the air.
What I'm saying is they will blame you just as much
it's
as
your fault.
you're blaming them for being crazy at a place that they're meant to be crazy. They're blaming you for being there.
No,
Like,
you're not meant
if
to
you
be
can't
crazy at a
handle it,
wrestling
why
show.
should you even be there? And that's my issue. There should be a safe space for everybody, including disabled people. If there's a safe space for sighted people, then there should be a safe space for disabled individuals as well. That's
Now,
my point. If
some
it's
places,
chaos everywhere, if it's chaos, it's a mosh pit and it's a Slayer concert and everybody's swinging at everybody, I don't have the right to say stop because I'm here.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's something like a movie theater where you should expect respect, everybody should expect respect. I shouldn't be unincluded because you feel like being an asshole one day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
right?
So if we want to continue down this through this article, because I
Mhm.
think it's fun. Some of the other things in the next sections listed is touch, and the first suggested thing in there is video gameplay, computer use, touch screens use, and then rain, wind, storms, and like just overwhelming amounts of like environmental, basically overstimulating feelings,
Like fog.
right? Yeah, like and that's not even, we're not even talking about like fog, not being able to see as far. Actually,
Right.
if anything, fog kind of makes me feel a little bit more comfortable.
Like
fog
nobody
feels like you're trying to put everybody on an even playing field. Like,
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
can't see, none of you can.
Yeah,
Right.
you're like, yeah,
I hate
you
it
know,
because everybody's always like, "Oh, I imagine this is how you could see," and I'm always like, "Yeah, put some vegetable oil in your glasses, get a strobe light over here, and then drive in the fog, and you might be on my level." You know?
yeah, no, and so uh,
I
I
can tell you
find
guys
playing,
a secret that
yeah,
touch. I had a partner last year, and I found massages were an amazing way to focus, relax, and let go of everything. Massaging somebody else is
I
really
find them
nice.
stressful. I find
Not
massage.
getting them, giving them to me, it was super
Oh,
amazing.
that might actually be different. You're right. That might be
Yeah.
different. I find being touched in not fun ways, right? Not in the fun, naughty ways.
Right.
I find it stressful personally.
I do too.
Like I don't really like my shoulders rubbed. Like I really
Right.
don't. Like I as a kid, like my mom rubbing my back was fine. It became something that I had found comfort in and fell asleep to, and
Yeah.
whatever. But as I've gotten older, I don't know. I find random, unexpected touching from strangers in particular, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Or just being somebody like giving your hand and you being like, and then they're always like, relax your hand. And like, I can't. Like, I cannot relax my hand. I'm incapable of it. And don't ask me why. Clearly, I'm always on edge because clearly I've always been being triggered by everything around me.
I don't like, there's certain people I don't like touching me. Yeah. I just don't like it. I don't like when our arms brush up together. I don't like that. No. Then there's other people when they'll give you a hug and you're like, that's what I've been waiting for my whole life. So
Right.
I'm not gonna say I don't like touch. I'm just gonna say I don't like
Specific. It's very specific.
People's touch, yeah.
like when I was a kid, you know how they would play games like they'd punch each other and stuff. Nobody ever punched me because I didn't like being touched, right? And if you did, I made it super awkward for you. Like, I didn't get mad and punch you back. I would just look at you and make fun of your penis size or something. You know? Like, I would go bad.
See, for me, it's just if you were going to punch me, because I've always been a fat kid. If you were going to punch me and I was the fat kid that knew martial arts, I was going to throw you. Like I'm switching sports. I don't box. I will completely change the sport on you. That's when it becomes WWE for me.
Yeah.
Because I was able to pick up practically everybody in my class. So if you punch me and I can grab your arm, you're going up and then you're going down. So yeah, it's all about who touches you though. Like it's all about, especially when it comes to massages, like like my wife all day long. Sure, absolutely. Random stranger.
That's why I said fun touching. It's still fun, Jay.
Right. But what I was
about this. You have some kids.
Yes, I do.
What I was talking about was more of touching to release that, to focus in and get away from all of those anxieties, just to be able to concentrate on the curves of somebody, and I don't know.
The interesting thing in here that they list though is one of these potential triggers. The one that jumps out to me is touchscreens.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Which is odd because maybe and maybe this is maybe why it's a lack of sensory. You know what I mean? So like if and it's an audio guy, if we're gonna get into the audio thing, right? Like having the mixer next to me, right? Sure, you can label that mixer all day long, but
Right.
the reality is I'm just gonna memorize the buttons and the faders and the sliders, right? And I can feel where they are, and naturally that's something I can count on and rely on, that I know like this one will pull the music down. I don't need to look at it, right? I can feel it.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe that kind of like the lack of being able to do that is a little bit stressful, right? Like, sure, touchscreens, especially things like big iPads and stuff that could be right in our faces, are beneficial and great because I nobody ever like makes fun of me the way they did back in 95 when you're like up on your computer screen, like face like I don't have to do that most of the time. Like I can work on my own personal device sitting right in front of me, and I'm usually pretty great, right? Like it's right on the table in front of me. But I think with the lack of being able to see it and use it and stuff, those kinds of things could possibly trigger these kinds of scenarios.
Okay.
So maybe a lack of feel is almost kind of a problem too. It's funny that it could be too much.
I've typed O instead of I so much that the word ITS is in my spell check. If I go to spell its now, it will try and replace it with oats.
You can go if you're on iOS, right? Yeah, you're on iOS. You can actually go in and fix that. I'll send you a thing later.
There's shortcuts and stuff. It'll change things back for me and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just weird to me about the touchscreen. And I think when I'm looking at my touchscreen when it's off, it is so smudged and disgusting that it does give me anxiety. I want to clean it all the time.
Oh, I wipe them off all the time. Clorox wipes, wipes. Just
I use a baby wipe for mine. I'm afraid to use Clorox on electronics for some reason. Like I always feel like it's going to short something. I don't know why. It's just I always think like Clorox, bleach. Don't put that on like electronics.
Yeah.
But speaking of iOS, have you guys been seeing, this is something that's been kind of going around in the space lately. I asked about it on the live stream this morning, but apparently there's a few people who are talking about there are some problems with TikTok and accessibility as far as they've actually taken away some of the features that have been extremely useful in iOS for TikTok. Like I know I've seen Brittany made a video about it. I've seen Leah make a video about it. I've seen a few other people make videos about like the accessibility seems to be going away from TikTok. Have you guys seen anything about that?
I don't use TikTok enough that because of the lack of accessibility for me in the areas that I need it. So I don't really, all I do is upload and watch. I don't do anything else. Like I don't even use captions because I can't read to edit the captions.
I never edit the captions like that.
I trust the auto captions. These are 1 minute dumbass videos on TikTok.
Right. That's
I'm glad there are auto captions, but I don't give a damn enough to correct them.
Right. That's my point is I'm not going to take the time it takes to set up all the accessibility on something that isn't going to be accessible once I do that.
It should also be on by default anyway. And
they really should.
I've spoke my piece on the show already. Captions should be an automatic thing you can go into the settings and turn on for all videos. And if the creators want to go in and manually update the captions to be correct, that's great. But those should just be a defaulted feature, not a thing I have to remember to turn on because I literally forget 80% of the time. And it's not that I don't want to, it's that TikTok's a bad app.
Then why can't I pinch zoom the size of the captions?
Also, why can't I pinch zoom anything on TikTok?
Right.
Why can't I put freaking TikTok in landscape mode on my iPad on iPad OS?
For a week, that's all I had. I didn't have portrait. I only had landscape.
How did that happen?
I have no idea, but then it went back and now I can't do it opens in landscape, but then immediately goes to portrait.
Yep. Mine does the exact same thing. And you know what would be great? If my iPad keyboard, I could sit there and read comments on my big iPad screen and reply to them, damn it. But no, TikTok. No, you need to stay in vertical mode. And
you don't read voiceover. You don't read your comments through voiceover?
No.
Okay.
No, because I find voiceover within the TikTok app useless. I find voiceover useless for about everything except for select to speak. I like select to speak a lot, like this article. Like I can select the whole thing and be like, read it to me.
Yeah,
that's what
Siri will go off and read it for me. That's great. But I don't really want voiceover on like, you're touching the upload button. You're touching the thingy. You're touching, like, I don't need it. Like, it's not help.
I hate that people know exactly what Jason's doing. Like, I'm on my iPad and they're like, oh, so you did just go to Pornhub. Shut up. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he just pushed play. No, you don't.
That's what headphones are for.
So Sherry replied to Jason, blah, blah, blah. Stop. Like, I don't need everybody knowing I'm super private that way. You know?
But that's why I use, I have those bone conducting headphones. That's the number one reason why I use it, because I don't like I like to be sitting in a room watching TikTok laughing and no one knowing what I'm laughing about. Like I'm very private that way too. But that's why I literally own like 1, 2, 3, 4. I probably own about 11 pairs of headphones. And that's just to make sure that if one goes down, I'm covered.
That's why my AirPods are great, is especially when I'm like getting on the bus, focusing on these things, right? Or when I was riding my bike, having my AirPods in, I can still hear enough that I'm fine with hearing. And if I get a text, it goes, hey, Rachel sent you a message, right? And you're like, fantastic. And it'll read it for you and be like, do you want to reply? And you're like, yeah, just reply with voice. Perfect.
Right.
I love stuff like that.
Me too.
You know, Curtis said, and you know, whatever. And you're like, thank you. But it only does, and I have the settings on to do that, but it only does that when my AirPods are in. Yeah. Right. So if I'm using my AirPods, which I am so frequently, I get all those things. Otherwise, my phone doesn't really talk out loud.
That's how my phone is. I basically put my phone on mute so that I don't have to hear like the notification, like the notification alarms. Right. But when my headphones, and the thing I love about my phone is you can specify it to which pair of headphones you want to do it for. So like when I put my bone conductors on, it reads my notifications from certain apps. Other apps I don't really care about. I don't really have their notifications read. If something happens, it happens. But when I disconnect those headphones, nothing is read out loud. Yeah. Nobody knows anything. And that's the way I like it. Like that's privacy the way I want it to be. Now, sometimes it will glitch. And if like your phone rings and like something with your watch happens, it will accidentally read your notifications out loud. Like I remember at one point, I was in a meeting for an organization I was a part of in 2015, and my wife had sent me a text message, and it was usually supposed to read to the headphones, but it glitched. So it read out loud. And the message was, hey, babe, is that stupid meeting over with yet? And I was just like, oh, God, oh, God. And, and it wouldn't shut up. I couldn't get it to stop. I couldn't get it to do anything. So it's just like, so sometimes it has its glitches, but I love that about it.
At least it wasn't about the fun touching. The last section in this part of this article, which I'm sure
can I just say about TikTok really quick?
Yeah, yes, complain.
TikTok doesn't really seem to want me to be a part of its community, so I'm not really looking to build an infrastructure so I can be a part of it.
I like TikTok. I like making dumb TikToks. I haven't uploaded anything since the 4th of July.
I liked making gift games. I liked making Vines. I liked making Facebook videos. I like making Instagram videos. TikTok videos aren't just a supplement to that. My Snapchat videos are amazing. You know what I mean?
And I have Snack Network content to make, right, for my food channel. Like I get it. We do little quickie videos and stuff for Instagram, and like those are perfect for TikTok, right? But like my own personal platform, what TikTok wants is me, and they want raw Dave World, and the reality is raw Dave World is boring 95% of the time. You know what I mean? Like sure, if I recorded that lady yelling at me, get in the road, that might have been kind of funny. But like I didn't do that. I probably should have. Now I kind of regret it. The last and so I get it. They don't want they don't really want my content. They don't really love the Snack Network content, but we're making it and it works as perfect TikTok.
I guarantee you, if you've made a 1-minute version of the Snack Network for TikTok on a consistent basis, you would gain an audience.
We're very
huge audience in food review.
We're very slowly not in the same. There's not in the same way that my own personal content has done well, right? Sharing personal opinions and those kinds of things. the format does work, and we're making the content for other platforms where it performs better anyway. And I agree there is an opportunity there, but the TikTok following is so much slower for that content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're a girl that wants to jump around and bounce,
Yeah, you're British. You're a British girl who loves ranch.
Yeah.
Apparently, that'll help you out.
I mean, there's other ways to hit it. I'm trying. See, if I can't go down that dark because I've struggled with that for the last few months, where it's just like you start growing, and then all of a sudden it halts, and then you find out the people that follow you never seen your stuff. Like it's hard not to go down that path.
But you make original videos. You don't take what you've been doing, taking our content and making it a video. I bet you the videos that you're making of pre-created content get less views than your but
Stitches definitely get more views than
But I bet you here, let's not use Stitch as an example while we're talking about TikTok. I bet you that stupid things to say to blind people does way better than the podcast commercials.
Right.
It used to. It doesn't anymore. And that's
because you're not doing it.
No, I've done it. I actually just put out one on Monday.
I didn't see it. And see, it didn't show it to me.
That's
and
problem.
And why all of a sudden does my own personal TikTok page no longer show me Shy or you or anybody? I don't know. It's showing me is dumbass Republican women, and I hate it. And that's also half the reason I'm not in the fucking app. Part
of it is this. So first, you have to realize if you start following more people, now they've got to shuffle all of those people to you.
I get that.
So the second thing is, like, for me, what I started doing is I have a specific list of people, and I'm just be real. There's a specific list of people that I have automatically saved in my searches that I go check for them. So if you're one of those people and I go down you start to see that I like videos back to back to back to back. It's because I'm literally on your page checking for you because TikTok won't show me you anymore. The other thing is
Shy sees me do this to her all the time. If she actually shows up on my page, which I don't often, I don't see her anymore. So usually I search her out. When I see her though, I will go to her page, and I will watch everything that she's put out.
She's one of the people on my list. Yeah.
I don't like every video Shy puts up. I'm just kidding, Shy. It's fine.
If you watch the first few episodes, you'll know he's not. Did he just fade out? Oh, that was a terrible time to fade out.
But
ooh, I like that. We could add. We'll just put any words we want right in there. I think the last thing you said was, "I don't like all of Shy's videos."
That's literally when you froze.
Thank you for listening to Inspirations Beyond Disabilities. My name is Jason. He's Dave, and he's Jay, and we will be back next week the same time. Anyway, sorry.
We're not really done, are we?
We're 6 minutes over an hour.
Okay, well, all I was going to say is I go through and I will like the videos that I do, and I go through all of them, and that's what we do. Do we want to finish up this last section of this article, or do we want to?
Yeah. And you can't like everybody's videos like all in a row like that, or they'll get shadow banned for some reason.
That's nonsense, and that's not true.
Really?
Spam like my content all you want. The last section.
Why I never like your stuff, because I don't want to get you banned.
No, like all my stuff. I'll go crazy. The last thing I want to bring up in this article, in this section. This is the section of the article. We only got through one section of this. I'm sure we'll be talking about sensory overload for the next following 20 episodes. Is taste being overwhelming? So rich foods, overly spicy, extremely bitter medicines, basically anything in your mouth. I have
to be overwhelmed.
I have an extreme gag reflex, and I've always had that, and I don't like anything constricting my mouth in any way. Orthodontal dentists and all that stuff, like all that stuff going on, braces. Hated it, absolutely hated it. And I still do. I still hate it. So I don't know if this is something that is related to my disability or if it is just a thing I hate, but I can't swallow pills. So
I like being overwhelmed taste wise. It's one of the few ways that I actually enjoy it,
Listen, I will never be overwhelmed, but I'm a fat guy. There is no way you're ever going to overwhelm me with taste.
Jay,
especially in rich foods. I eat Great Value brand almost everything. So Nah, rich foods aren't a problem.
Don't challenge the head of the snack network to a food challenge. I will find something that you'll be like, yep, I don't like that.
No, I'm a picky eater. I'm a picky eater in general, but it's just like I've never come across, like, I may not like the taste of something, but like I've never found something that's like, oh my God, that's overwhelming. Now, unless you
Right.
do something that's like extremely hot, I don't understand why people like to like burn the roof of their
I like
mouth
to
for
burn.
stuff.
I like
Yeah.
to burn. I'm gonna put up a ghost pepper chip video soon on the Stack Network. Go watch that. I don't know. I just wanted to list it in here. I don't think anybody in this group is having a taste overwhelming, a sensory overload related to taste.
I can tell you that, like, okay, so like cilantro, if you put a little in something, I'm annoyed because I don't like it and I can taste it even if it's a little bit. In garlic, if you put raw garlic on something and I eat it, it gets stuck in my face for like 3 days and that's all I taste is like spoiled garlic. So there is times when flavors can get really annoying. Yeah.
So if any of this discussion made you think things or whatever, leave them in our comment sections on our various platforms. On Public Access Guy is pretty much everywhere. Public Access America, Inspirations Beyond Disabilities. Go give us a rating on your various favorite podcatchers. That helps us out and gets us to more listeners. That helps people discover the show. 5-star ratings and Apple Podcasts are the most appreciated.
Hearts on Google Plus or Google Podcast, please.
Yeah, but you know, go to Apple Podcast.
Really? And that's why you cut out just now. So Google Podcast for those.
Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, Player FM, the Stitcher Smart Radio app, Radio Public, TuneIn Radio, the iHeart Radio,
wherever you find your podcasts. And that's why he cut out, because he's making an Apple comment. See,
that's
works
right.
out.
It's
works
all
out.
about the Apple. And I want people to think, I want to end on this. I want people to think of the intersectionality of what we're talking about. The fact that autistic people, blind people, less intelligent people, deaf people, everybody has these sensory overloads to some extent. We have to realize that we all are involved in this to some extent, like to different degrees. So don't dismiss somebody else's feelings. Remember, feelings are valid and you need to address it from there.
That's true. That's true.
Hi, Dave. He stayed for a whole show. I love that. He didn't drop out halfway through.
Yeah, that's actually true. That's actually true. This is the first.
Yeah. Oh, and he's back. We're back with Dave. Dave was talking about how he does not, in fact, like Shy's videos. No?
Nothing.
I like it. Dave, stay quiet if you're an ableist.
I was muted.
Oh, he talked.
It's terrible. I actually see that I'm actually on the Zoom call twice. I actually see my so I made a family crest thing when I got married because I'm extra, and I actually see it in the top left corner. Fortunately, the camera is off, but I see the crest logo at the top. So yeah, I just noticed I'm on here twice. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I'm gonna end the stream